person who makes the most change in your life is the local politician,
Absolutely.
the councilman, the state senator, the person who's going to directly represent you and what you would like. And what Felix and I are trying to get through to people is, if you don't like people, vote them out. But
Exactly.
you have a constitutional right to vote. People have died to give you this right.
Absolutely.
So don't squander it. If you complain and you don't vote, you have no right to demand change.
Exactly. I'm going into I started my 20th year as Democratic District Leader, which I get paid $0 for. And I get a lot of complaints that no one does anything, and they thank me for what I do. And I tell them, if you feel that way, go out and pull the lever. Put the good person in, get rid of the bad. A lot of the electeds that are out there do not do what they're supposed to, nor do their staff. And I'll tell you, I've been a one-man show, just a one-man show for the last 20 years. I don't have a staff. I don't have anyone who I pay. It's just volunteers. And I will tell you, when the phone rings, I answer it. I don't say, where do you live? My motto is, how can I help you? And that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy. And I'm praying that tomorrow night at this time, the results come in extremely positive, and I get to serve in the New York City Council.
Well, let's just hope that if that comes through, that in the very near future we send Congressman Lew Simon.
No, I don't want that. No. I'll be very, very upfront. I do not want to be a congressman. I want to be the councilman so I could stay in the communities I represent and be there. You don't have to be that many hours in City Hall for committee meetings or whatever. And that's another point. My opponent was absent 77% of the time. He's the fifth worst council member in attendance. He doesn't show up. And all he seems to do is play Republican politics, playing with the Queen's Board of Elections, firing people. He does not want to play nice and work with people.
How long has he been in office now?
I ran against him in 2009 in a special, and I came in a close second. Then he ran in a general election, and he lost 4 years ago to someone. He won, rather, 4 years ago. I'm sorry I didn't stay in, because I would probably be running right now for re-election. He is a young kid who does not have the experience or the know-how to do things. Through the years, I have made plenty of connections, meeting and talking to various commissioners, city, state, and federal government, that I know who to call, how to do it, and how to resolve something.
Okay. Let's see, what else? What do you, off your topic for a second, what do you think of the healthcare situation going on in the country right now with the Affordable Health Care Act?
Well, there's a lot of glitches in the Affordable Health Care Act. People are trying to apply. They're having problems. It's affordable. What is affordable? Okay, I could tell you the plan that Hillary Clinton had proposed, the single-payer plan, where we were going to get free health care. Most people cannot afford health care. I myself, I have hospital bills now. I had no health care. I don't know how in God's name I'm going to pay these bills off. Okay? It's very sad that not everyone could afford it. It's not cheap. Whether you're single or family, there's no such thing as health care very cheap. Okay? That you cannot tell me you're going to get health care for $1,000 for a year. It don't exist. Health care is the price of health care. You have to choose whether you're going to pay your rent, pay your mortgage, pay for food, eat, get your medication, and have health care. It's very sad today. Very, very sad.
Do you think this particular plan will help any?
Well, from what I see right now, I looked around and pricing things. Unless you could afford it, I don't know what it's doing. The price of health care is extremely, extremely expensive. And there needs to be something done to make it really affordable. Because people who are working now, people who are working in minimum wage jobs or in jobs that don't pay well, they cannot afford health care. Okay?
No, I was looking at it, and my plan, which I think is better than what they're offering on the some of the plans from Obamacare, as they call it,
Right.
it's less expensive than the
Yes.
least expensive plan there is out there right now in New York.
Yep, that's the problem. We're pricing out plans. They're astronomical, that you go through the roof. And, you know, it's unfair that if people can't afford health care, that they're going to be taxed. I don't believe in that. It should be something that people could choose to have. If you can't afford health care, why are you telling us that you're going to tax us? Okay? People can't even afford that. Okay? You know, it should be a given that when you have a job, you get health care. People who work in McDonald's, okay, people who work in Wendy's, it's not like it used to be before, where the people who work there were kids. We have a lot of adults trying to survive with their family because there are no jobs out there and there's no health care.
It's true. If you looked at those lines when they were picketing for
a living wage,
a meaningful living
Yeah.
wage,
Yeah.
they weren't kids. They were
That's right.
adults, you know, who were taking anything. Some of them
Exactly.
work at 2 and 3 of those jobs just to try to make ends meet.
Absolutely. You know,
Lou,
years ago,
yes.
somebody who lived at home with their parents at 18 to 21 was able to move out on their own. Now, rent is a telephone number. You can't do it. And you know what? There is no jobs out there. Everything is dead. What they really need to do is what Roosevelt had done to PWP. They need to put people
That's
out there
right.
fixing the streets, fixing our infrastructure, and then giving them the medical and paying them a living wage. Because you know what? You cannot live on minimum wage. It's disgraceful. Minimum wage in order to survive is $15, $20 an hour. Anything less than that, even that you can't survive on.
And Lord knows we have crumbling highways and bridges and tunnels
Absolutely.
that need work. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure that nobody wants a handout.
That's right.
People want to know that they can get up in the morning and go to work and earn their living.
Absolutely.
Okay, nobody's asking for something for nothing. You know, I mean, I watch on television, on MSNBC, and they have those medical clinics across the country. And
Right.
many of those people are working class people with families who just
Absolutely.
can't afford health care.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't for these free clinics, they would not get medical care.
Absolutely. And also just, you know, what I did want to say, a lot of the businesses now and big corporate stores have scaled back on their workers and cut their hours because once they have 30 or more hours, it's full-time, and they can't afford to pay the medical. The Obamacare now has caused a lot of people to get their hours cut because they don't want to pay medical at this point.
It's the thought is there, but I don't think it was thought out well.
Exactly. It was rushed.
You know-
It wasn't finished properly. And, you know, I'm a very proud Democrat, and I have to say, I got destroyed here. My office burnt to the ground. My home got destroyed. And I came back to vote, made sure my vote counted, and proudly voted for Barack Obama. And he told us there wouldn't be any red tape and all these things, and there's been more red tape than I've ever seen in solving things.
Also, he said on the health care that if you have a medical plan, you can keep it.
That's right. Exactly.
That's what they constantly bring up, the fact that those were his exact words, and many people are finding out now that that's just not true.
I think almost just about everybody has his policies are canceling the end of the year.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I ask myself, Lou, and I'm sure you have too, we're the greatest industrial country in the world, the free world,
Right.
okay? But every country, almost every country in Europe and Canada has some form of free
healthcare.
medical for their
Yeah.
free healthcare for their people, and for some reason we just can't seem to do it.
Yep, and yet we send all this money abroad. We give every country money that needs it, and yet we don't have things we need. Why do we walk in the streets and see so much homeless people sitting on steps? Why aren't we taking care of these people? What I don't understand, there was a great program that subsidized housing for people who lost their jobs or didn't have an income, where they were able to stay in an apartment. Now they want to put them in shelters, and even that they don't want to do. So I have problems with these things. I'm not a liberal. I consider myself to be very conservative, but I cannot see that people are out in the street. So many people have lost their jobs and can't afford to live anymore, and it's really sad.
I think it's a sorry state of affairs when you take the train into Manhattan and we walk over the people who are sleeping on 42nd Street in Times Square.
In cardboard boxes.
On a cardboard box, because and we step over them like they're non-people.
Yep, exactly. I will tell you that every time I'm there, if somebody is hungry, I'll buy them something. See, we have people who walk the streets who are always looking for $1. If I know they're really hungry, I will buy them a meal and feed them. But some people take advantage, but these poor people who are sleeping out in Manhattan on the steps of churches and whatever, nobody is out there reaching out and helping them. And it breaks your heart to see. I know some of them have mental ailments, okay, but there before the grace of God go I. I never laughed at anyone. My mom, God rest her, used to say to me, we have a place called Surfside Manor in Rockaway on Beach 95th. And these are people who have problems. And my mother would go to vote the same place they would, and they'd say, hello, Mr. Simon, I'm here to vote for you. They're the first ones in to vote because they know I have a heart and they know I care. I'm always there to make sure they need some books, they need a newspaper, they need clothing, that they have it. So many people abuse people like that. I will never do that. I have a real big heart, and that makes the difference.
To the Republican Party, these are non-people.
Exactly.
They're invisible. They don't exist.
Exactly.
Almost to a one, if you listen to what they preach in Congress, if it's not for the Democratic Party, these people have no voice.
Exactly. And as we heard this week, people who are receiving food stamps, the SNAP grant, people who've lost their jobs, unemployed, have a family, they're starting to cut each week $22 a week. I cannot believe, listen, I know there are people who are abusing the system, but the people who need it, you're taking food off their table, absolutely ridiculous and uncalled for.
They're doing away with breakfasts in schools,
yes.
And we know how important it is to start the day with a meal, any kind of a meal.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you're taking away the lunch and the dinner as well.
Right. Well, let me tell you, breakfast is a key part of school. Kids are going to school. Some of these kids have a one-parent family. Some of them just get them on the bus and have to go to work. And they don't have time for breakfast. And the breakfast program is extremely important. Give them breakfast, the kids will be able to learn more and concentrate. It's very sad. And even the school lunches. Some parents can't afford to buy their children lunches. And it's sad, and they're really cutting back on that too.
There's an old saying that says, charity begins at home.
Yeah.
I think before we look overseas, we should, and I understand how important it is to the third world countries, the aid that we give them.
Right.
But, there are so many people here who could use it as well. And
Absolutely.
It's not charity.
Absolutely.
It's not charity. It's just taking care of your own.
Exactly.
They say charity begins at home, and that's the way it should be.
We have, let me tell you something, we have people who live in Breezy Point as well who are very poor, seniors who don't have much. Some of them have lost their homes. Those who are living there are struggling to survive. And it's so important. That's why it's important to keep the Meals on Wheels, senior centers open. You have no idea. And might I also say that my heart goes out to all those who lost their homes in the hurricane. I will tell you that Breezy Point, Hamilton Beach, Broad Channel, Rockaways, people who are trying to rebuild from scratch are hitting stone walls with the city of New York, with the buildings department, with height requirements they don't know, with FEMA, with insurance rates. It's really, really ridiculous. And like today, I was out, and you look in people's eyes, the anguish. Today I toured the Madeline Chocolate Factory. And a couple of the ladies live in Breezy, and they said they lost everything, their homes and all. They're trying to rebuild. They're hitting stone walls. You have no idea how my heart goes to them.
Well, what the problem is that all the insurance companies and FEMA and flood insurance, they all point to everybody else and say, well, you have to straighten out with them first before we can give you any money.
Exactly.
And these people don't have money to rebuild.
Right.